Hi everyone, welcome to the OneCodeCamp channel. Today, we will be diving into the world of QR codes and Node.js. In just a few minutes, we will show you how to harness the power of Node.js and build your very own QR code generator. It will be easy, fast, and super useful. So, let's get started.
Hi developers, once again this is Rod Gilbert, and for today's video, we'll be creating a QR code generator. I hate to keep you waiting, so let's dive in. To start with our code generator project, let's create a folder and let's name it QR code generator. After that, let's open a code editor or an IDE. As for mine, I'm going to use the VS Code IDE. To select this folder, you can click this Open Folder button, or we can minimize our VS Code and we can drag and drop our folder. There you can see that we can now work with our folder using our VS Code. Now in the VS Code, the first thing that we're going to do is to open our terminal. You can do that by clicking the terminal on the top corner of the VS Code. After that, using the terminal, let's install the necessary dependencies for this project. But before that, let's initialize this folder as a new Node.js project. First, let's type npm space followed by init and then space -y. After running this command, a package.json file will be created in your project directory. A package.json is a configuration file used in Node.js projects to store metadata about the project, its dependencies, and scripts. Finally, let's install dependencies. We will install Express and the QR code library. To install these dependencies, let's type npm space install followed by space express, again space, and finally QR code. After that, let's hit enter. Then the terminal will start the installation process of these dependencies. Then you will see that we are now done installing these dependencies. To confirm that, we can now see our dependencies inside our package.json file. You can also notice that a new folder gets created in our folder directory, that is the Node modules. This directory contains all the dependencies that your project requires. To start with our project, let's create a new file within our root directory, and let's name this file app.js. This file will contain the code to generate QR codes and serve them through an HTTP server. Finally, we can now start writing our code. First, let's import the dependencies that we have installed in this project. To start with, let's require the Express module. Then let's store this in a constant variable. Now that we are done importing the Express network, we can now use it to create an instance of an Express application and start building your own web server. After that, let's require the QR code library. Again, let's store it in a constant variable. Now that we're done importing the Express framework and the QR code library, let us now create a constant variable that will hold the instance of our Express application. Let's name this variable app. Then let's invoke an instance of the Express application. After that, let's declare another constant variable and let's name it port. Let's assign a value of 3000. We define a constant variable port to specify the port on which our server will run. Basically, on our first 4 lines of code, we import dependencies and set up our Express applications. The next thing that we're going to do is to define our route. Let me just comment this out. Let us use app.get method provided by the Express to define this route. Inside this method, we will pass down an endpoint. So whenever a user accesses that endpoint, the code inside the route handler will be executed. Let's say that the endpoint is /QR code. After that, let's create an arrow function to fire a callback function. Every time a user will access this /QR code endpoint, this function will be executed. Inside this callback function, we will pass down two objects, the request and the response object. And that's it for our route handler. Now let's generate an actual QR code. First, let's declare a constant variable and assign the link that we would like to convert into a QR code. For this sample, let's use the example website link. Let me just add a comment. Here we define the URL that we would like to convert. After that, we will use the toData URL to convert the URL into a data URL. A data URL represents the QR code image. Let us use this QR code constant that we have declared a while ago. Let us just rename this for proper name convention. Then let's type QR code. Followed by that, add the toData URL method. Now inside this method, this will accept a parameter, and that is the constant URL that we have declared a while ago. After that, let us fire another constant function. Now inside this callback function, we're going to pass two objects. First, we're going to pass an error if there is any. And if there's no QR code generation error, let's create a variable that represents the URL that points to the generation QR code image. So basically, what we did here is we convert our URL into data URL. A data URL is a QR image representation. Let me just add this to the comment. Let us comment convert URL into data URL, or also known as QR image representation. Now inside this callback function, we're going to handle the QR code generation errors. To further handle this QR generation error, we're going to use a conditional statement. First, let's create an if statement. Then let's pass an error if there is any. If an error occurs, we'll send a 500 internal server error response to inform the user that something went wrong. Let's send the status code of 500. And let's send an internal server error message. Now, if there is no error, let's create an else statement. By any chance that there is no error, we're going to send a response message. If the generation process is successful, we will send an HTML response back to the user's browser. Inside this send method, we will going to send an HTML structure. Let us just add a comment here. For this one, if there is an error, we will send an error response. And that response is the 500 internal server error. On the other hand, if there are no errors during the QR generation process, we will send a response that includes an HTML page. Now let's go back to our send response to our client. Inside this method, let's place a template literal backticks. And let us just expand this a little. Then let's create an HTML boiler template. Let us just create a typical HTML structure. First, let's create an HTML tag. Then let's create a head tag. Inside the head, we're going to place a title tag. The content of this title will be QR code generator. Now that we're done with the head tag, let's proceed to the body tag. Inside the body tag, let's create an h1 tag. Inside the h1 tag, let's type a text content QR code generator. This will be followed by an image tag. This image tag or element will hold our QR code that will be generated. For this image, we will set a source attribute. And for this, we will pass the QR code URL variable that we have created a while ago. And as for a last touch for this image, let's create an alternate image attribute. And lastly, for this HTML template, let's create a paragraph. This paragraph will tell our user to scan the QR code to visit the website. I think most of our code is almost done, and the only thing that is left is for our server to listen to the request coming into this port server. If you actually minimize the HTML page template of the code, you can see that our code is actually just short and simple. Now let's add the codes for listening to the port. Let me just minimize this again so that we can have a better view. First, let us just comment out what we're going to do, and that is we're going to start the server and listen to the request. Our server will listen to this port that we have created a while ago. First, let us type up, followed by that, and the listen method to specify the port number on which our server will listen for incoming requests. Now inside this method, we're going to pass the port that contains the port number. And that is the port 3000. After that, let us throw a callback function. Inside this function, let us log to the console whenever our server started running. Now let's log server is running on port. Then let's insert our port variable. And that's it, our code is all set up. We can now run and test our code. Hopefully there are no errors. Now let's run this app.js file using the terminal. Let me just expand the terminal. To run this file, let us type the keyword node, followed by space, and the name of our file. Our console should log that the server is running on port 3000, but it looks like that I'm having a terminal error. To fix this, I can just restart my terminal, so I'm going to close it and open another terminal. And there you have it, our server is now running on port 3000. Now that our server is running on port 3000, let us now check our web application using any web application installed in your operating system. As for mine, I'm going to use the Google Chrome. Alright, so first let's open our web browser. Then let us now access our route. Let us just type localhost, followed by colon, and followed by our port number 3000. After that, let's add our route, which is / QR code. And there you have it, your very own QR code generator built using Node.js and Express. Once a user scans this QR code generated image, they will be able to retrieve the link embedded to this QR code image. After that, they will be redirected to this link. And that concludes our video tutorial for today. I hope you found this video tutorial both informative and enjoyable. Just remember, creating a QR code per link is just one application of QR code generation. QR codes can be used in various creative ways, such as sharing contact information, providing product details, or even connecting to Wi-Fi networks. Feel free to customize and expand upon what we've covered today to create even more exciting projects. Again, thank you for joining me in this tutorial, and once again, this is Ron, and see you again in the next video.